My name is Dennis. I'm from Bremen. It's in northern Germany.
I'm Meşa from northern Germany.
I'm Lia and I'm from Switzerland.
I'm Lucia. I'm from the north of Italy.
Hello, I'm Luca. I'm from Leipzig, from Germany. Yes.
We're protesting today for the freedom of Abdullah Öcalan. He's been imprisoned in İmralı in Turkey for 26 years in isolation, and it started on in 99 on the 15th of February on like an internationalist complot from different NATO states, and we're protesting for the freedom of Abdullah Öcalan, for his ideas for a free and democratic society, and also for the freedom of the Kurdish people. My personal reasons for being here is that the ideas of Abdullah Öcalan and also the fight for freedom from the Kurdish people gives me a lot of hope, especially from coming out of all the problems that we have that are based on profit making, pretty much capitalism itself. The Kurdish freedom movement is trying to show a way out of it and try to show how we can build up alternatives based on solidarity, on women's freedom, on social ecology, and on democracy. The most important ones are kind of easy to break down. They're like radical democracy, women's freedom, and or like gender freedom overall, and social ecology. So social ecology, for example, is how society itself can only live if it sees itself as part of nature, and we have to get back to that kind of relation.
The Kurdish movement is important because it is a movement that is centered on freedom and on truth. It is a movement that in years has created a liberation for whole people, the Kurdish people, and also for other peoples of the Middle East. There is a process also of liberation of the woman and of ecologic development and democracy, because these are the three fundamental principles of the organization that the Kurdish movement proposed to the population of northeast Syria.
Kurdistan, the people, they don't have their own nation state. They have been divided after World War II into Syria, Iraq, Iran, and also Turkey mostly. And Abdullah Öcalan was one of the founding people of the founding members of the PKK, an organization that is now deemed a terrorist organization in the EU as well as in Germany specifically. And their goal was back then to, after like the Marxist-Leninist model, to form their own nation state for Kurdistan, which has been divided into those different countries in a communist way. So they have no country of their own. And initially it was the idea of forming their own nation state, forming their independence as a country. But in the 1990s something happened we call the paradigm shift, I think is a good term. The paradigm shift has been a change which was also very much an idea or was very much formed by or influenced by Abdullah Öcalan personally. And the paradigm shift dictated shifting away from the idea of nation state, and generally was like they took the Marxist-Leninist movement, but they also created a synthesis with other movements. So the idea was no longer to create a Kurdish nation state, but instead it was to gain autonomy, to be able to govern themselves and to live by their own culture, by their own ideas, and have authority over themselves essentially. And ever since then, and even before that, they have been faced with very broad repressions. They have been repressed in a cultural sense. They have been assimilated very strongly, especially in Turkey. They are not allowed to speak their own language in schools. They were only taught Turkish. Also, Kurdish representatives in political parties and stuff will get arrested frequently. They will be suppressed and held out of the public's view.
Imprisonment of a really symbolic figure, and also he has such a big impact on the Middle East and Kurdistan, and his prison writings, they present a solution for the Middle East, which is also a solution for the rest of the world. And we see a big perspective in his solution and his view of the world, and this is part of the reason why we are here today, to march for his freedom.
Especially considering the confinement of Abdullah Öcalan. He is on İmralı, it's a prison island in Turkey. And there's a story we tell each other about his confinement, which I think puts it in a pretty good picture, what the conditions are like. He has a small room by himself. There's a lot of military on the island just to isolate him, and now it's 3 others that have joined him. But he has a courtyard, and in this courtyard there was a flower blooming in between the pavement in his courtyard. And Abdullah Öcalan wrote a letter about this flower. And after the military read this letter, they ripped out the flower. They took the last bit of life that was left in his courtyard and crushed it. Also, they cut down a tree which he could see over the prison wall. So you can really see that they try to completely isolate him from any form of life.
And I think the movement is very important because it's also these ideas that the movement proposed, that were developed by its leader Abdullah Öcalan, is also not just for the Kurdish people, or the ideas are not just for the Kurdish people, but it's a proposal also for all the peoples in the world to learn and to establish a practice against capitalism. And I think what is really, for me, is really strong about it is that it's not only against something. I think today in the left or in the revolutionary movements in Europe or in the Western world, oftentimes we know what we are against. We are against capitalism, against patriarchy, against racism, and so on and so on. But what the movement does is also to propose something. They have really concrete ideas, and they also look back in history and see all the resistance which is there in history, and try to learn from it and try to build something. And really this idea of democracy, of democracy, real democracy of community, is something which we are really lacking, in which the movement has it's extremely, it's an extreme power of.
Şimdi de taze bir hala buradan
Tolidan Sosame.
Vigice lo capo.
Xinjiang Azadi.
Dalle montagne kurde alle nostre città, donna, vita, libertà.
Xinjiang Azadi.